Have you ever wondered why the wisest among us often speak the least? What if I told you that the secret to true wisdom isn't about knowing more, but saying less? In the next few minutes, you'll discover an ancient Buddhist teaching that could completely transform how you communicate, think, and live. This isn't just another feel-good story, it's a practice that has changed the lives of millions for over 2,500 years. Stay with me, because the silence you're about to experience might be the most powerful sound you've ever heard. Look around you. We live in a world that never stops talking. Social media notifications, 24-hour news, endless meetings and constant chatter. Words upon words upon words. In this ocean of noise, we've lost something precious, the sacred power of silence. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you spoken when you should have listened? Rushed to fill a quiet moment with words? Regretted something you said in haste? In our modern world, silence has become uncomfortable. We avoid it, we fear it. But what if silence isn't empty at all? What if it's full of answers we desperately need? Long ago in ancient India, a wealthy merchant traveled many miles to meet the Buddha. This merchant was known throughout the land for his clever arguments and sharp questions. He had challenged many spiritual teachers before, always leaving them speechless with his intellect. When he finally stood before the Buddha, the merchant was ready with his challenge. "Teacher," he said with a slight smirk, "tell me about the nature of the soul. Does it exist after death or not?" The Buddha looked at him with gentle eyes and said nothing. The merchant, confused by this response, tried again. "Perhaps you didn't hear me. I asked if the soul exists after death." Again, the Buddha remained silent. Growing frustrated, the merchant demanded, "Why do you not answer my question? Are you unable to respond? Has your wisdom failed you?" At last, the Buddha spoke, his voice calm like still water. "If a man is struck by a poisoned arrow, should he wait to find out who shot the arrow, what wood it's made from, and what bird the feathers came from before removing it? Or should he focus on healing his wound?" The merchant stood speechless. "In the same way," continued the Buddha, "I teach only what leads to liberation from suffering. Some questions, even if answered, do not lead to peace. The silence is your answer, not because there isn't one, but because the question itself misses what truly matters." In that moment, the merchant understood more from the Buddha's silence than from all the words he had heard in his life. This tale introduces us to what Buddhists call noble silence, a profound practice that goes far beyond simply not speaking. The Buddha taught that there are 4 kinds of questions. 1. Those that deserve a direct answer. 2. Those that need clarification before answering. 3. Those that should be answered with a counter question. 4. Those that should be set aside, met with silence. The last category isn't about avoiding difficult topics. It's about recognizing when words become obstacles, rather than bridges to understanding. It's about knowing when silence speaks louder than any word could. Modern science is finally catching up to what Buddhist monks have known for millennia. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that regular silent meditation actually changes the structure of our brains, increasing density in areas responsible for learning, memory, and emotional regulation. When we practice silence, even for just 10 minutes a day, our stress hormones decrease, our creative thinking improves by up to 40%. Our decision-making becomes clearer and more effective. One fascinating study followed participants who took a 10-day silent retreat. Brain scans before and after showed significant improvements in areas associated with attention, sensory processing, and self-awareness. These changes lasted months after the retreat ended, but you don't need to become a monk to experience these benefits. The power of silence is available to all of us, right here, right now. In Buddhist tradition, silence isn't one-dimensional. It has many forms, each with its own purpose and power. 1. Receptive silence. The silence of deep listening, where we truly hear others without planning our response. This silence builds connection and understanding. 2. Reflective silence. The pause we take before responding, allowing wisdom rather than reaction to guide our words. This silence prevents regret. 3. Restorative silence. The quiet moments we give ourselves to heal and recharge. This silence replenishes our energy. 4. Revelatory silence. the stillness where insights and creative solutions emerge. This silence unlocks our deepest wisdom. 5. Reverential silence. The speechless awe we feel before something greater than ourselves. This silence connects us to the sacred. Which of these silences do you need most in your life right now? There's a beautiful story about a group of Western visitors who traveled to a remote monastery in Japan. They had journeyed there to learn from a renowned Zen master. Upon arrival, they were disappointed to discover that the master had taken a vow of silence for the month. Nevertheless, they were invited to stay and participate in the daily life of the monastery. The visitors, all accomplished intellectuals, were frustrated. They had traveled thousands of miles with questions that now would go unanswered. One visitor, a professor of comparative religion, was particularly upset. "What a waste," he complained to his companions. "We could have learned so much if he would just speak to us." For 3 days, the visitors followed the monastery routine, waking before dawn, meditating, working in the gardens, eating simple meals in silence. The professor grew increasingly irritable, counting the hours until their departure. On the 4th morning, while working in the garden, the professor accidentally broke the head off a prized lotus flower. He looked up in horror to see the master standing nearby. Expecting anger or disappointment, the professor began apologizing profusely. The master simply smiled, knelt down, carefully picked up the broken flower, and placed it in a small bowl of water. He gestured for the professor to follow him. In the master's quarters, the elderly monk took out a brush and ink. On a simple piece of parchment, he painted the broken lotus with quick, confident strokes. Beneath it, he wrote in elegant calligraphy, "Everything broken is perfect." He handed the painting to the stunned professor, bowed, and walked away. That night, the professor sat in meditation longer than usual. The next morning, he was the first to rise for dawn meditation. By the end of the week, his face had transformed. The tension lines softened, his eyes brighter. When it was time to leave, the visitors thanked the master. The professor bowed deeply and said, "I came seeking answers, but found something better. The questions worth asking." The master smiled, and in that silence, perfect understanding passed between them. The professor later wrote that in 7 days of silence, he had learned more than in 30 years of study. But how do we bring this powerful silence into our noisy modern lives? The beauty of this practice is that it doesn't require special equipment, expensive retreats, or hours of free time. Here are 5 simple ways to cultivate the power of silence. The morning minute. Before checking your phone or speaking to anyone, sit in complete silence for just 1 minute. Feel your breath. Notice your thoughts without following them. This tiny ritual creates a foundation of peace for your entire day. The conversation pause. During discussions, practice waiting 3 full seconds before responding to others. This small gap allows you to respond with wisdom rather than reaction. You'll be amazed at how this transforms your relationships. The digital sunset. Create a period of electronic silence each day by turning off all devices at least 30 minutes before bed. Allow your mind the gift of undistracted quiet. The nature connection. Spend time in natural settings without your headphones. Listen to the language of birds, wind, and water. This ancient silence reconnects us to our deepest selves. The mindful meal. Eat 1 meal per week in complete silence, focusing fully on each bite, the flavors, textures, and the journey of the food from field to plate. This practice transforms eating from a mindless habit to a profound experience of gratitude. Let me share a personal example. A friend of mine, Michael, was known for his quick comebacks and constant commentary. In meetings, he always had something to add. While this made him seem engaged, he noticed people becoming hesitant to share ideas around him. After learning about the power of silence, Michael began practicing the conversation pause. For 1 month, he committed to waiting 5 seconds before responding to anyone. The results transformed his career. People began seeking his opinion more often. His team became more innovative. Most surprisingly, he got promoted. His boss specifically mentioned his thoughtful listening skills as the reason. By saying less, Michael's influence grew. His words gained weight precisely because they became more rare. I invite you now to experience the power of silence firsthand. Let's practice together. For the next 30 seconds, wherever you are, simply be silent. Don't try to empty your mind or achieve anything. Just notice what happens in the space between words. What did you notice? Perhaps your mind raced with thoughts. Maybe you felt uncomfortable or impatient. Or perhaps you experienced a moment of unexpected clarity. Whatever you felt, that's your starting point. Now imagine expanding that silence in your life. Imagine the wisdom, peace, and power that would come from regularly visiting this quiet place within yourself. The ancient Buddhists understood what we're rediscovering today. Silence isn't the absence of something, it's a powerful presence. In our noise-addicted world, choosing silence is a revolutionary act. Let me leave you with one final story. There were two young monks studying under the same master at a mountain monastery. After 10 years of training, the master called them to his quarters. "You have both learned much," he said. "Now it's time for your final lesson. Dayu, you will go live in the busiest part of the city for 1 year. Biyu, you will remain here in silence for 1 year. Then return and share what you've learned." Dayu descended the mountain to the chaotic city, while Biyu retreated deeper into the monastery's silent halls. 1 year later, they reunited before their master. "What did you learn?" the master asked Dayu, who had lived in the city. "Master," said Dayu, "I learned that people suffer because they're constantly searching outside themselves for happiness. They talk and talk, but rarely listen. In all that noise, they've lost connection to their true nature." The master nodded and turned to Biyu, who had remained in silence. Biyu opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again. He smiled, took a deep breath, and simply bowed. The master returned the bow, tears of joy in his eyes. "Both have learned the lesson," he told the other monks. "One can speak it, the other has become it. And that is the true power of silence, not just to understand wisdom, but to embody it." The beauty of the Buddha's teaching on silence is that it forms a bridge between ancient wisdom and our modern needs. In a world that's louder than ever before, the practice of intentional silence isn't just a spiritual luxury, it's a practical necessity. When we cultivate silence, we're not retreating from life. We're preparing to engage with it more fully, more wisely, and more compassionately. The power of silence isn't about saying nothing. It's about choosing your words with such care that each one carries the weight of your full presence and authentic truth. In the words of the Buddha himself, "Whatever words we utter should be chosen with care, for people will hear them and be influenced by them for good or ill." But perhaps his most powerful teaching was delivered in complete silence, under the Bodhi tree, where he simply held up a flower and smiled. Only one disciple understood, and that understanding, born in silence, has echoed through the centuries. As we come to the end of our journey together, I invite you to carry this ancient wisdom into your modern life. Start small, 5 minutes of silence each day. Notice what changes. Listen for the wisdom that can only be heard when the noise subsides. The power of silence is waiting for you, just beneath the surface of your busy life. It's always been there, patient, transformative, enduring. If this exploration of silence has resonated with you, please help spread this ancient wisdom in our noisy world. Like this video, subscribe to our channel for more insights from timeless spiritual traditions, and share your own experiences with silence in the comments below. Remember, the greatest teachers throughout history understood that some truths can only be transmitted through silence. Some wisdom can only be found in the spaces between words. Thank you for your presence and attention. Until next time, may you find strength in silence and power in peace.